Find out, what makes you thrive. Because thriving and surviving are two very different things. Right now, 70% of the American workforce is unengaged at work. 70%. 20% of those are actively deconstructing cultures. Like, that's what Gallup says. This isn't what Lawrence says. So Gallup studies show that we're in a pinch when it comes to the workforce, and we need people to show up thriving at work and be who you need when you're younger.
Well, welcome to the Culture-neer podcast. I'm going to be your host, Craig Walton, today, and I'm excited about our guest, Mr. Lawrence Sheffield, who's joined us today all the way from Birmingham, Alabama. Just rolled into God's country. So I'm sure that's debatable on his part. I'm super excited. He leads an organization and a company really called Manufacture Good. I think today you're going to inspire a lot of our listeners and our audience, just how you took action to make a difference. I mean, you truly were a culture-neer. So, man, I'm excited to have you on the show. Appreciate you making a 6-hour trip to make this happen. And tomorrow we're going to have a great time speaking into some entrepreneurs, all day. And, man, you're just going to add a lot of value. So welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Terry. Thanks for having me.
So talk to us a little bit about maybe we start with Manufacture Good and what that is. Maybe some of our listeners don't know. And then we can talk about your journey that led you there. So just jump in wherever you want to go.
Yeah, Manufacture Good is a social impact company in Birmingham. We take a work day and help young men that are stuck in a rut learn what we call the heart of workmanship. So we build furniture. We do mostly woodworking. We've got a beautiful shop in the heart of downtown Birmingham. You can picture just an old battleship of a looking building. Been there since 1920s. Beautiful old steel windows, looks over the city. And every day, our name is Manufacture Good because it's really a verb. We go in every day and try to add value. And our customers, when they purchase furniture or cabinets from us, they're getting invited into that story. And they come down the shop, and you can smell the wood dust, right? And it's a beautiful place.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome. So talk to us about the journey. I noticed a little bit. I know we met in New Mexico, of all places. We were at a fellowship culture event.
Yeah, we were the two rednecks.
Yeah, we're the two rednecks with the C-suite. I'd never forget, though, I was in one of the breakout sessions, and we were all going around the room, and they were talking about, so how many people you lead? And there's a couple people after me, I have 2 million, that I lead. And, I'm from Stoneford, Illinois. We have 35 employees, and it's like, am I really supposed to be here? But I think this relationship, probably that was a starting point for that. And I'm really curious to see kind of where that goes. But I think that was a direct assignment. But anyway, out of that, I know that you started as a firefighter. So how in the world do you end up in a 100-year-old building downtown in Birmingham building furniture?
Yeah, fireman straight. But well, kind of going back to my high school days, I came out of high school and I was kind of an odd man out. I wasn't going to college. So for me, I've always enjoyed working with my hands, and nobody really knew what to do with me. Coming out of high school at the time, everybody was, we were getting preached, you got to go to a 4-year college. And so I took the road less traveled and ended up in the fire department, and I was learning to work with my head, my hands, my mind, and my heart. Most firemen have a side hustle. Construction was more of mine. I was a helper. I bought a house at 22 and started building stuff really to meet my own needs, and furniture building came into the fold after I bought the house. But my really big part of my life is I became a Christian at 23, and I became a Christian at work. So I went to the fire station. I lost my dad when I was 20 years old. I was pretty much out on my own at that point, and was just struggling. And a coworker, it wasn't a pastor, it wasn't a a Bible study I got invited to. It was at work. Somebody shared their faith with me and spent time to answer my questions. And I became Christian. So I started surrounding myself with all these firemen that were living, a purpose-filled life. And they invited me to go on a missions trip down to Ecuador. And they told me the price, and I didn't have that kind of money to go down there. And so I started selling furniture out of my front yard. And so,
you are a true redneck, aren't you?
I am a redneck in that way. For Alabama purposes, I'm probably not a redneck. My true redneck buddies, country buddies, would say I'm not. But so I would set up furniture on in my front yard, Adirondack chairs, outdoor stuff, and people would pull up and haggle with me, and I tell them, hey, I'm actually doing this to raise money for a missions trip, and they'd purchase it. And so that led me to really the vertical of building for missions purposes. And then I had a guy named Tim Lawson who was one of my fire department bosses. He was one of my lieutenants, and he introduced me to serving in the city of Birmingham. And I was running into all these young guys, and I was learning time after time again that the number one thing they needed was a job. And so the idea came about is what if we created a place where young men could come and learn to work with their hands, their minds, and their hearts. And so that's how it all got started. And for about 4 years, I did both. I did the fire department, and then on my days off, I would go to manufacture good. And then it became an organization, and I got married and was pulling crazy hours trying to keep it all together. We started in a little one-car garage with a shaky table saw and just a handful of DIY
Custom
tools. Oh yeah, and those were good days, but really just some crazy stuff happened. Somebody got in touch with me, and they had this 12,000 square foot shop in the heart of downtown Birmingham. Loved what we were doing, and said, "Hey, y'all come use this building." And so we moved from 400 or 500 square feet to 12,000 square feet. And, 4 years of doing both, I went all in and said, I'm going to give this everything I got. And so I resigned from the fire department and went all in.
Wow. I bet that was an interesting conversation with your wife.
It was. Yeah. A lot of times people see our true callings before we do. And, and I'm a big fan of wise counsel. I'm a big fan of verbal processing. And I remember one night we were cleaning up after dinner at the house. It was one of my nights I was home, because every third night as a fireman, you're at the fire station. So she was just watching it wear on me. There was all these guys at the shop, and while I was at the fire station, my phone was blowing up, and just the stress of trying to do both was taxing, being newlyweds. And I remember going to her, and I remember saying, I think I need to go full time. And she said, I've known that. So let's write a letter. And the next day I went in and met with my fire chief, and with a big smile on my face.
Sounds like you married the right woman.
Yeah, my wife Frances is. I definitely married up. She is wise beyond her years. She believes in me, and she wants me to follow my calling for sure.
Yeah, I think what's so cool about that is what you described is why everybody goes in business. There was a need, you created a solution. There was a problem, we create a solution, and we sell it, and there's a price tag on it. You found a need, figured out a way to meet it. It's ended up in an entire organization. It's really that simple, isn't it? A lot of hard work, a lot of guts, all that kind of stuff. But for people that, I don't know, I've been trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do for the last 3 decades, it's really not much more difficult than that if you really boil it down.
Yeah, and I was on fire for my new faith, and I remember looking around and asking people, like, what am I supposed to do now? And what I realized was that the good Lord had already given me all the tools I needed, and they're individualized tools. And if I try to use somebody else's tools, I have no idea how to use them. It's not a good fit. And so, yeah, it was stepping out and then asking a lot of people for help. because I mean, without great people, you know, you're sitting on G waiting on O, like nothing's going to happen.
One childhood memory that feels like a sneak peek into what you do now. Is there something that comes to mind?
I started cutting grass at an early age. You know, I would go knock on everybody's door in my neighborhood and try to hustle up some business, and you know, taking my parents, you know, lawnmower, doing all that stuff. That's one, and then the other is really the entrepreneurial side of me popped out when I was I walked into my orthodontist office because I couldn't cut grass in the winter, you know, and I remember walking in. This guy's name was Dr. Sarver in Birmingham, and I said, "Hey, I noticed that all of these parents are waiting in your waiting room while their kid, you know, they're back there for an hour, 2 hours getting stuff done. I want to set up a car wash in your top parking lot. I'll wash your car for free." So here I am, like making this deal with this orthodontist.
How old are you?
Yeah, I'm probably 16. You know, so I drive my little Toyota to come up there, and I'm washing his car, and that's my rent. You know, looking back, he's probably just thinking this is hilarious. And then I would just walk in and ask anyone in the waiting room, "Would you like your car detailed?" And I had a rigid shop vac and, you know, some bubble bath or who knows what I had. And I would go and dial these cars in. But those entrepreneurial tendencies were there early in life. And now I'm the exact same way. And so, yeah, the entrepreneur has been just wanting to be lived out for a while.
So how old are you today?
I'll be 36 next week.
So 36. So if you went back 18 years, had a conversation with yourself,
Yeah.
what kind of advice should you give to the 18-year-old version?
I'm very big on traits. I've done a lot of self-awareness work, and I've realized that we're all geared differently. And I felt like I was doing everything wrong at 18. I felt like, you know, because I wasn't going and getting the degree, or I didn't, just all of the things I was watching my peers do, I was really focused on what's an 18-year-old supposed to do, rather than saying, "Oh, I enjoy creative work. I was a young visionary." And that's a weird space to be in, because young visionaries kind of get dunked on a lot of times, because you have this world vision of making the world a better place, but you don't have any resources to get it done.
Or experience.
Yeah, and experience is huge. I mean, huge. I love spending time with wise counsel, like I said before, but I think I would tell myself, "Hey, you're going to have lots of ideas, and get under as many of those people that are geared like you, and go work for them and ask questions. Go sweep floors and do whatever you can to be around visionary leaders that are leading their businesses well, more importantly, their families and themselves well." And in my 20s, that's where I've really put in a lot of effort, is getting great mentors, getting great relationships built. And I mean, that's where I want to spend the rest of my life, is finding folks that are a step ahead of me, 10 steps ahead of me, and just asking lots of questions.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's actually really impressive to think about. You were wise beyond your years, and you were navigating a lot of that with the loss of your dad, and to still kind of find out what your purpose was. Wise enough to have mentors. We talk about it all the time, but experience is learning from your own mistakes, and we're going to make enough of those, but wisdom is learning from the mistakes of others. And so intentionally, though, going to pull out to learn what they did so you don't bear the same scars, that's smart. For men, that's even, I think, more tough, because we have too much pride. Asking someone for help is an admittance that I don't have all the answers, and a lot of guys get stuck right there, and it really limits them for the rest of their life. Tell me about the 3 most influential people you've had in your life, how they impacted you, or who they were.
Yeah, I mean, one, my father-in-law, Daryl, has been a big role model in my life. A lot of people talk about their in-laws as
Outlaws.
Yeah, the Outlaws, all that. My in-laws are amazing. I mean, they know who I am. They've helped me um, pour gas on the good stuff, and that's been a big deal. I can ideate with him. I can call him. You know, ideas are always their most delicate in their infancy. You know, is what I've learned, and you have to have people that you can pick up the phone on a Friday on a drive up to Illinois to come see you and say, "Here's what I'm thinking about," and he's definitely been that. My mom would be another one. I mean, she's like one of my best friends, and you know she's been through a lot of losing her husband, and she has always been a constant in my life that has helped me see that that I can actually chase my dreams, and we still talk about stuff to this day. Let's see. Another one would be a guy named Jody Martin. Jody Martin is definitely one of my biggest mentors in Birmingham. I've watched him. He has a business in Birmingham. They do mechanical contracting work, and just I know we're talking about generosity tomorrow. He is one of those characters that truly lives out the generosity story, and the saying of "I've never met an unhappy giver." He's like the model for that. So
Wow.
he uses his time, treasure, and talent in a way that I'd like to, as well as my mom and Daryl as well. And I've got 500 others I could list, but those three come to mind. And so one of our sayings in the shop is "Be who you needed when you were younger." We've got a big sign hanging up in the shop.
That's good.
Yeah, stole that from Google at some point.
Well, I may steal that from Man Up. That's pretty good.
It's pretty good, right? And so, it's a call, especially with those who have tough relationships with key figures in their lives. It's easy to look back and say, well, I didn't have this or that, so nobody else should. It's easy that's that pride we were talking about earlier, but living out a way of saying like, no, I want to create. So I am having those conversations with 18-year-old me's, but they're working at the shop with me. The 25-year-old who thinks he screwed it all up. We're truly trying to live out that, and all three of those people definitely have lived that message out to me.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how many guys do you have working at the shop kind of in your peak time?
Peak time, I mean, we run 10 to 15 in the shop, in the whole org. So we're small. We go very deep with apprentices, what we call apprentices, for 6 months. So since 2013, we've had over 100 young men. And we bring them in, and for 6 months we pour into them, economically, socially, and spiritually. So our apprentices that we have right now, they know in a couple months we're going to help them launch out and go work for great companies like yours, or go get a job at Chick-fil-A, or we've had apprentices go work at write code for major banks. We think that they have those individual giftings and gearings, and we just try to figure out what that is with them, and then introduce them or just help them with resources on their way out.
That's awesome. So basically about every 6 months you're running a new group of guys through.
We used to. That's a really hard business strategy, because you have a brain drain. I tell people all the time, people call me and I want to do what you're doing, and I said, well, you just got to know that it's a terrible business model, because we literally train people and pour in all of our IP, and then they walk out the door and we have a party. So it's
start all over again.
It's start all over again. So we stagger it, Terry, and we have people come in, and we have kind of typified seats in the apprenticeship. So we recruit based off of those types of situations. So that way we keep a very diverse apprenticeship group in the shop, because people with different experiences can definitely learn more from one another.
That's awesome. We'll make sure we put that in the show notes on how to get a hold of you. So I'm sitting here thinking I want to talk a little bit more about that, because we may have an outlet, for providing some employment for some of the people that are coming out of that. I'm sure a bunch of our listeners have the same thing. When we're looking, we call it a selection process. So we're selecting 1 out of 100 people we talk about. But the biggest thing we're looking for is character.
Yeah.
And then it's culture. And then it'd be competency.
Yeah.
And so if you're already checking some of those boxes, I mean, we could be a great outlet for that. So that'd be kind of exciting to talk about off air. So what do you think is the most important lesson you've learned so far in your career now?
There's life cycles to things. And so I would say that it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And so I'm learning a lot. So going from a 1-car garage to, we've got 2 businesses now, Manufacture Good and Full Stack Firewood. So Full Stack Firewood is directly behind our shop. And so we've got 2 businesses running.
Tell us about the second business.
So Full Stack Firewood was crazy. I was trying to find firewood in Alabama, and it was like it was like an act of Congress to try to find somebody to deliver firewood on a cold day, and there was no websites out there. So we started we laugh about it. We started a boutique firewood company. Isn't that funny? So boutique firewood, white glove delivery, but you can actually order offline. So fullstackfirewood.com is the website. We do not deliver to Illinois.
All right,
maybe
next
for
question.
You,
okay.
Maybe for you, but it's fun. It's a business that we buy logs. They come to the shop, and we really treat it like farming. I mean, we go out and we have a way to quantify the wood. Most customers in our area don't know what firewood, how it's measured. You hear different ricks and racks and cords. So we make it super easy, and we deliver actually what people pay for. And so
novel idea.
Yeah, and so we season firewood. I mean, we're sitting by a fire now. It's so nice, and it matches our culture, because where fires are found, there's community found. And
I'll steal that one too, just so you know.
It's good. And so there's some other companies out there doing it, and it's so much fun just to see firewood get modernized. And our customers love it, because we show up when we say we're going to show up. You get a friendly face. I mean, and the product's great. And so we're having a lot of fun with that business. But there's life cycles, is what I was getting at, is growth. I'm reading some stuff right now, and one of the things I'm learning is like revenue's vanity, profit's sanity, and cash is king is like so true. And so not growing too fast, not growing too slow, like there's a happy medium. And so I'm learning a lot about true business principles, because mission and culture are amazing, but growing steadily and having great business practices, keeping a generosity focused organization is what we're in the name. That's the business we're in.
Yeah, it's not one or the other. You have to have both.
Yeah.
One lesson your job's taught you think everybody should learn at some point in their life?
Say that one more time.
So one lesson your job has taught you that you think everybody should learn in their life.
Everyone deserves a shot. It doesn't matter what accolades someone has. Like I care about where people are going. Yes, the backstory it has to be factored in, but a lot of people, there's a big gap in our country of the haves and have-nots. And what I'm realizing is that everybody has, for the most part, has the same root desires to have great shelter, great community. And a lot of people lack the networks. And so it doesn't matter what business, if like you're riding down the road listening to this right now and you've got a business, you have a platform to help other people thrive. Mm-hmm. And one of my mentors, is a guy named Pete Oakes, and he has an incredible system that has helped us think about it. And it's the triple bottom line concept of economic, social, and spiritual capital. And for people to truly flourish, they have to have a great job and be provided for. They have to have people who love them and care about them. And then also they have to have a true north compass. And that for us, that's, being Christians.
Yeah.
And everyone needs that. And I don't care if you work at a bank. I don't care if you cut grass. I don't care if you're the CEO of the biggest company in the world. Business can be a blessing for those who work there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tomorrow when I open this here, I'm going to be talking about a purpose-driven leader. And I'm going to use an example from the Maslow principle, the hierarchy. Have you heard that? Because you just described it.
Yeah.
It's basically what everybody needs and what their needs are.
Mm.
And that is so true and so powerful. I think as business owners, we've got to start taking a more holistic approach, because I think the days of thinking, well, from 8 to 4, 8 to 6, that's all I'm concerned with. We're already managing what happens from 6 to 8 o'clock the next morning. If they're having problems with their marriage, with their kids, there's a loss, there's an addiction, it's showing up at work the next day. We're already managing it. Mm-hmm. So we need to be smart enough to invest in it, and care for our people. I mean, obviously we should do it for the right reasons. But I'm also on a quest to really try to get people to understand, quit looking at your people as a liability and see them as an investment. And if you'll make the investment, man, the return on that and the engagement and the productivity, just everything about that changes. And I think you're spot on. What's the most important tool you think today you have in your business toolbox?
Our business toolbox. I mean, for us, it's our shop. So the physical space that we work in, and I think people. So I'm in the blue collar world, as you are, right? Mm-hmm. So how our shop feels is probably our biggest tool. So if we're hosting customers, it's how the shop feels. It's the bathroom in the shop. Is it clean? Is it not clean? Is it, if you get into our trucks, is there stuff all over the dashboard? Is it dialed in? Is it ready? And so, our 3 core values are pursue, steward, and serve. And so for us, when people come and visit, and I don't care if it's a homeless person walking in needing some help, or a CEO of a company, it doesn't matter. It's the biggest tool in our toolbox is our culture. So when people walk in the door, we greet them every time with welcome manufactured good. And we've always said we want to be like the Chick-fil-A of workshops. And when you walk, why do I go to Chick-fil-A? It's because it's just downright pleasant. They've almost made me think it's like a healthier option to take my kids there and
for fried food and fries.
Yeah, right. But it's how their people
so they make you
show
feel
up. Yeah, exactly. And so there's always a new cutting edge tool out there. I'm a big fan of big CNC routers and wide belts, all that stuff. Cool tape measure apps, all the stuff. But the saying, it's somewhat cheesy, but it's true. It's culture eats strategy for breakfast every day, all day. That's why we cut our own grass. That's why we go in and clean bathrooms when a lot of companies would be just focused on getting more products out the door. It's because if we replicate that in the hearts of our guys and they come and work for you or whoever's company is listening, like that is truly life-changing.
Yeah.
When people walk into spaces like that.
That's the pathway to promotion right there. Yep.
Clean bathrooms. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So final 4 faves. Favorite part of your morning routine?
Being with my kids. I wake up and my wife's a stay-at-home mom, and she left the workforce. And truly, I mean, she was a nurse practitioner, and we had a similar conversation when I left the fire department. She's at home raising our 2 little girls, Gray and Lottie, and we're at 2 years old and 5 years old, that stage. So if I look tired, that's why. But hearing the laughter in the mornings and them chasing the dog and doing all that, like that's like worship for me. Like I love being in that house in the morning. It's chaos, it's fun, but I can do calls when I get up and get moving. But being at home with the fam, that's my favorite part.
So do you have siblings?
I have 2 sisters. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you kind of know what that felt like, kind of growing up.
Oh yeah.
So favorite way to unwind at the end of the day?
So we this is funny. We get home. I get home about 6:15, and I'm a millennial. I'm a proud millennial. I'm not we're not the demographic, but we watch Wheel of Fortune almost every night. And so,
You're our customer.
yeah. So Wheel of Fortune, 6:30, Pat and Vanna, like our little 5-year-old's like, Dad, I don't want to watch Wheel of Fortune. She doesn't know what it's called. And so we turn on Wheel of Fortune, and it's so relaxing for me. I don't know. I think it was an old fireman I worked with named Bob that we would watch Wheel of Fortune together, but we do it every night.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Favorite book that stands out?
I really enjoy The Heart. I really enjoy Wild at Heart. Losing my dad at an early age is a big part of my story, and being in the world of training men and leading men. That book it's like I always have recalls to that book. Somebody gave me that book when I was 18 years old, when I graduated from high school, and it sat on my shelf for like 12, 13 years. Finally, I just was like, I'm going to read this thing. And it blew me away. Another one is anything by John Mark Comer. I'm in on that. John Mark Comer, the ruthless elimination of hurry, the principle of Sabbath and resting, and our workaholic driven. My personality is I want to work. I don't get the Sunday scaries. Like, I enjoy going to work in the morning, but learning how to rest and unplug and recharge. Those two books stand out big time.
Yeah, you're the second guest today that mentioned that book, so that's pretty interesting.
Have you read it?
I have. It's been a while, but it's piqued my interest to go back and reread it now.
The Ruthless or the Wild at Heart?
No, the Wild at Heart. I've not read the Ruthless.
Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, because if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably a big personal development junkie, right? Mm-hmm. And there's always the next thing to work on. That book blew me away on what does it look like to unplug for 24 hours a week.
Yeah, I'll definitely go out and get that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Last one would be, what's your favorite magical moment you'll never forget?
Walking in our shop for the first time. I mean, work-related.
However you want to. Could be personal, could be professional.
Well, I mean, personally, I've got a lot of those with my wife, getting married and just the incredible woman she is. I think professionally, walking into our shop, so we had one. So when we walked in the shop, it had one working plug. So 12,000 square feet. I mean, I'm not an electrician, but that's not enough power, right? Like, and walking in and seeing it, it was. Maybe we can put a picture up of what it looked like. I don't know if y'all do that, but we could put it in the notes or something because it's a cool picture.
Before and after.
Yeah, and the vision I saw it full. I saw it full of people working, and I was there with a couple people, and I was looking, and it was this building that was dormant. It was a really special building. This incredible family saw the vision, but I remember bringing people down, and they were just like, "I don't see it. Like this building, this isn't it. How could this be it?" Yeah, like in business, I'd bring business folks down, and they just were like, you could go get something ready to go. And it was just, this is the spot. And we've been there 10 years. And it's everything I saw plus more. And so from time to time, I'll get stressed out about something. I'll just go work in the shop and just if I'm thinking healthy, I'll step back and just look. And it's very incredible to see what God's allowed us to do down there.
Yeah. Actually, the episode that dropped today was on vision. And man, I think that is so important for entrepreneurs and business leaders because we're the architect of the future, and that vision lives in our mind. Most of the time, the other people can't see it, but we have to see it so clearly that we can rally people that trust and believe to go the way, even though, I don't see it, but man, I get excited when you tell me about what you're seeing.
Yeah, you're right.
And that is so powerful. Best advice you've ever received?
Seek wisdom. Seek wisdom. I mean, it's it's like you said earlier. It's what was your saying about what was wisdom? How'd you define it?
Well, experience is what we learn from our own mistakes. Wisdom is learning from the mistakes of others.
There, I'm a believer, and I talk about. I would just be plagiarizing if I tried it. There's nothing new under the sun, is what I'm getting at, and there's wisdom to be had in reading the Word and being around people. There's lots of coaches out there. Every time I get on Instagram, there's always something new. There's just an abundance of information, but true wisdom is found in people that have walked it out and that have gone for it. They zigged when everybody else zagged, and I really think seeking wisdom. I mean, that's from Proverbs. Above all things, seek wisdom, and that's the best piece of advice I've gotten. What do you think about that?
No, I mean, that's good. I sitting here remembering my own life where I was sharing a story about basically having a pity party about my own scars and, telling another guy about it. And I was going to be in a position not long after that to lead him. Didn't know it at the time. He said, brothers, don't worry about that. He said, I don't trust anybody that doesn't have scars because it matches your story.
Yeah.
You want to know somebody has walked that out. It's not whether they're perfect. We're not under that illusion. But I want to know that somebody has walked that out and lived through. You're not giving me theory, you're talking to me, through your pain, through your purpose, or, sharing your victory and what you learn from it. So I think it is powerful. What advice would you give to our listeners today?
Well, one is find out how you're geared. There's a ton of things out there that can help you with that. And ask people, say, do you see me as being an introvert or extrovert? Like, find out your gearing. Find out, what makes you thrive. Because thriving and surviving are two very different things. Right now, 70% of the American workforce is unengaged at work. 70%. 20% of those are actively deconstructing cultures. Like, that's what Gallup says. This isn't what Lawrence says. So Gallup studies show that we're in a pinch when it comes to the workforce, and we need people to show up thriving at work and be who you need when you were younger. Show up and be your whole self. And if you're in an environment where you can do that and thrive, the world changes. Period. End of story. It doesn't matter what you do. It matters how you do it and why, and most importantly, why you do it. And I would say, find out how you're geared and then go be that and bring somebody else along. Bring somebody else along.
Yeah, it's so good.
And it's you go home happier, meaning there's a happier, more joyful. The difference between happy and joy, I know, but going home at night, being a stressed out mess, and in a good posture for anybody.
Yeah.
And so I would say thrive in who you are. God's created you to be somebody, and go be it.
So we all have areas that we're still trying to overcome, things we need to grow in, growing up into what we're supposed to be. What's the one thing right now you think that's still holding you back?
What's holding me back is I'm learning, like I was telling you earlier, lessons bought are always always more valuable than lessons taught. And I feel like I've bought a lot of lessons in learning about business. There's a difference in the guy that was talking to my orthodontist and letting me wash his cars and now, stewarding a lot of resources. And so for me, it's learning. I care so much about people. I want people to thrive, as you heard me talking about a minute ago. facts don't have feelings. And so for me, like I'm learning about the factual side of business and learning to dive into reading P&L statements and all of those things for my friends out there that aren't accounting wizards. Like, my pain, but I'm learning that that's good stewardship. And so I'm learning about just business mechanics, stewardship, and it's hard. It's hard when and I'm really trying to kill that disbelief that that I can't do it.
Yeah.
And so I'm a pretty simple guy, pros, cons. And so that's where I'm trying to figure out how do I grow as a business person right now? And there's been a lot of success in that, and it's coming, but the culture and all that stuff is everything, but also there's a black and white side of it as well.
Yeah.
So for me, and we have an amazing team that puts up with me and that's helping me grow in that. And so that's mine.
What are you doing to simplify your life? You kind of spoke into that a little bit when you talked about the book you were reading. I think for guys or gals that are listening to the show today, I mean, that's the temptation for us. We're in a work-driven environment that's just conducive for imbalance and workaholics. What are you doing to simplify?
Yeah, so I'm not gifted administratively, so I have lots of help there. So, for example, I've had an EA. Shout out to Andrea. I've had an EA for 5 years, and that was a big one because in my world I'm texting all the time doing all stuff. Virtual assistants, God has gifted people in the gift of administration, and what I hate, someone loves.
Yeah.
And so for me, as I was greeted coming in here, there's people that have giftings. And for me, it's finding the things to offload that I'm not good at and helping other people have great work in front of them. And so I used to think that was like, who am I to do that? That's being lazy, or no, it's actually foolish to try. It's like to master my weakness is a really bad use of my time. So I want to pour gas on my strengths and then humbly say, I'm not good at this, and get help. And the other is shutting my phone off. I shut my phone off 24 hours a week, and my close friends know how to get me. But every time I turn that phone on, it's all good. Like nothing. I mean, I'm with my family, and for me, just silencing that noise for 24 hours and not having Gmail, not having all the things, like that has been a big simplifier for sure.
It's awesome.
Oh, and watch Wheel of Fortune and Andy Griffith.
Oh,
Those are
yeah.
2 good starting points right there.
Yeah, go back to Mayberry. It's just makes life much better.
That's right.
What does it mean to be a culture-neer? I always like to ask everybody on the show.
Yeah, I mean, I think culture. I love the name, by the way. How'd you come up with that name?
Well, after doing tons and tons of research, we realized every name under the sun had been taken, so I was forced to create a name, which then led into, I realized once you create a name, you can also create their own definition. So it's a cross between culture and pioneer.
You're playing chess when everybody else is playing checkers. I see what you're doing. Culture-neer, I thought about that word after you said it, and your book's awesome. And I think a culture-neer is someone that crafts a culture intentionally. And culture is like, I like what Andy Sands says, it's the personality of an organization. And so like if it's warm in this room, we can all sit, like I love this illustration, but we can all sit around and think about how hot it is or how cold it is or whatever.
I'm doing that right now.
Yeah, we got the fire on. Feels great. This isn't full stack firewood, by the way, so we're gonna need to change that out. But like being a thermostat to me is I talked about that at the event, but being brave enough to walk over to the wall and pick up the other people in the room want it to be a better climate, but having the courage to go up and change it and be okay if it's not a popular choice in the moment or whatever, but doing for the greater good, even if it's not, if you're going outside of status quo, that's a culture-neer. is somebody that is courageous, is somebody that is willing to make the lives of others better. And I think that's what you're on to with this movement.
Yeah, that's good. So what does Lawrence Sheffield want to be remembered for?
Fishing for men. That's my internal why, is to engage the unengaged by fishing for men. I love the story in the Bible that Jesus is talking to an ordinary pack of fishermen who've been at it all day. I mean, they've been at it all day, hadn't caught anything. And he comes at the end of the day. I talked to our guys about this. It'd be like somebody walking in the shop after we've been grinding all day. We put up everything. And they're like, hey, start it back up. Like, just that in itself, they hadn't caught anything. And he's like, hey, go back out, throw your net over. They pull it up. They're breaking the net. There's so many fish in it. He spoke to them in their language, right? And then what he said was, if you want to change the world, basically drop your nets. This is fish for today, but I'm going to teach you to fish for people. And it was ordinary people without seminary degrees. Like, it was unqualified people, and he called them into a greater mission. So I hope I'm remembered for that, and then loving my family well and my friends well. And yeah, life's a vapor, and I make tons of mistakes, and I know there's grace for that. But yeah, I want to be remembered for fishing for people.
It's good. How's your definition of success changed over the years? Like at 18 and what it is now, how different would that be?
Success to me is that flourishing component of. So I didn't go the traditional route a lot of people go, where they come out of college. I'm assuming here, but they try to get a job and then get another, basically climbing a corporate ladder. And that was never mine. It was following a calling is success, in my opinion. So calling is it's a greater journey than financial success. Like, it goes back to am I being a good steward of the economic, social, and spiritual capital that God's given me? And if I'm being a good steward, then there's a well done that comes with that. And so for me, that success is based off of what resources do I have and how am I stewarding them, whether that's family or work or whatever.
That's good.
Well, how do you define it?
Well, I'll tell you how we define it, and we teach this at our organization, is that if you were working for us at the end of your tenure, we hope the least you've taken away has been a good paycheck. This should be a given. But you should be able to look back and say, you know what, because I worked there, I was a better father, I was a better husband, I was a better citizen. And so we kind of built our culture around teaching that, rewarding that, keeping that in front of people. So yeah, as an organization, that is definitely it. I feel like my purpose is to help other people discover theirs. And it was like David said, I've served my generation, and then he laid his head down. And I want to be able to say that. I served my generation well. My greatest legacy will be my kids, and thank God for my wife. But we could really rabbit trail here, but I do think legacy is not so much what you leave people, which we know there's an ancient proverb that teaches us it's good to do that. But I think it's more valuable what you leave in them. And I know what I've left in them, and I know that they're going to pass that on to the next generation, which is a large part of, I think, what drives both of what we're doing. I don't get up every day to make money. I get up every day to make a difference.
That's right.
And it's the same thing that you're doing. And anyway, 2 biggest pet peeves.
What kind of questions are these? Where are you getting these from?
Well, when I'm not sleeping at night, I just make the stuff up. It makes it interesting.
I like, yeah. 2 biggest pet peeves. My wife would know before I would know. Emailing differently than people talk.
Okay.
Like we write, like we're like, it's like, I do it sometimes too, and I'm like, why am I typing this out? Like, I don't speak this way. And yeah, that's one is, gosh, I've got so many. It's so funny that you bring that up. I don't know. I have to think of what's one of yours. Help me out.
Oh, people being late. Number one pet peeve.
Yeah.
Second, and almost equally, is if you're negative.
Mm.
I think pessimists look for obstacles in the midst of opportunities, and I think optimists, all they see is the opportunities in the midst of obstacles. And I'm looking for that every time we interview somebody. There's a lot of things I can change. I can't change your values, and I can't change your attitude. And so those are two big, big pet peeves. If you had to eat one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
I'm a steak guy. I mean, that's easy.
Okay.
Is there other answers?
Nothing I've really heard today. So.
Is it steak?
Well, yeah, it's whatever you want it to be. But yeah, the last gentleman told me steak and potatoes. So yeah.
I mean, it's pretty. I mean, that's hard to beat.
Yeah,
right there.
Really.
I enjoy a good old chicken pot pie. Hey, how about that? Like a good one. I'm not talking about like a frozen one.
Not a banquet one. Yeah.
Like that. That's always good.
So if you could have coffee with any historical figure, who would it be?
George Washington. There's a book by Eric Metaxas that it's called Seven Men. You heard of that? George Washington is like portrayed on the dollar bill as this frail, powdered wig. You've seen the picture. That's not the way he was though. Like he was like a leader.
Man, yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, he wasn't this frail figure. He was leading the charge and standing up for what's right. And I mean, going against the grain in the best way.
Super wealthy too. I was in Jamestown last year and just hearing a little bit more of his story and kind of walking around. Super wealthy, which obviously he'd done a lot of things right, but then it also brings into perspective what he was risking. He had the most to lose.
Yeah.
And that's pretty powerful. It speaks a lot to his character.
I got another one, Lottie Moon. So Lottie Moon, we named our youngest after Lottie Moon. She was she was the first ever internet, I think somebody fact check me on this, but she was the first ever female international missionary that was in the SBC back in the day in the 1800s. And so she went to China. She left Comfort, went to China.
Yeah, I've heard that name. I don't recall all the story, but
yeah, she was like 4'3", 4'4", and she would write these fiery letters. She went from like the time she was in her 20s till she passed, I think later in life in her 60s or 70s. But there's still the Lottie Moon offering. I never heard of her until we were researching names, but talk about just another, that's a Culture-neer right there. That's somebody that said, hey, we've got to go to where it's not comfortable and make it known that there's a savior. So, yeah.
Cool. Time travel. Would you go to the past or into the future?
I'd probably go to the past. Yeah. Yeah, is that experience you're talking about, the wisdom stuff. Like I'd like to see the past probably more in the future.
Night in or night out? Would you
night in, 1,000%.
It's awesome. Yeah. Man, I have so enjoyed hanging out with you today.
Same.
How can our listeners help with your mission at Manufacture Good? We'll put a link up, but just...
Yeah, buying products. So we're in the business of employing, training, and investing in the lives of young men. So we are a nonprofit. That's how we're set up. We're trying to be sustained through our sales. We've got this huge shop, and it builds dignity when we get orders. So if you need furniture, order it from us. If you need cabinets, we can talk about it. Like, we'd love to. If you're in the Southeast, come see us. Is
it all custom? Is there any kind of...
We have a semi-custom line on our website.
Okay.
It's called our American Oak Collection, and it's the guys do amazing work. we also do company gifts. So if people want to put their logos, we've got laser systems that can burn your logos in. And if you're in the South and you're looking for good firewood, you can always call you boys. Full Stack Firewood.
We're in South Illinois. I'm just saying.
I know.
6 hours up here. I mean,
just 6. Yeah. Yeah. We need one of y'all's roofing trailers or something to get everything up here. But yeah, those two. And then we, I want to be a good steward of the opportunity. It's, a lot of our guys are walking through extreme employment barriers. And so we love spirit, a generous giver to come along and help us. So, it's one of our guys has to have a complete dental reconstruction, and we want to help him with that. So we've had folks step up, and so there's court cases, there's bus passes, there's vehicles that we're praying for these guys, and so if people want to give, they can give through Manufactured Goods website, and that's a big deal. So. We appreciate any help we get. You can follow us on Instagram, Manufactured Good, Full Stack Firewood, and yeah, come see us.
That's awesome. Well, again, I know you drove up here today to volunteer your time to speak in a bunch of people you've never met tomorrow at our Ripple Effect event. Of course, the purpose of that whole event is, can we spark something on the inside of the people that are in that room, like got sparked in you? You've seen a need, then you went and met it. You found a hurt, you went and tried to heal it. And that's what we hope to do tomorrow. On behalf of all those people that haven't even met you yet, I appreciate you coming and investing your time. And we'll see you next time on the Culture-neer podcast. Terry Gwaltney from the Culture-neer podcast. Listen, I want to say thank you for listening to the podcast today. Also want to encourage you to help us get the message out to more people. If you could like, share, and review this content on wherever you consume it, if you go into YouTube or LinkedIn or just whatever your social media channels are, and you could even share it, that would be a big help to us here at the Culture-neer podcast. Also, if you'd like some more information, you can go to www.terrygwaltney.com, where we have updates. We also have more resources. We share articles there. And you also can find our new book there called The Culture-neer. Again, we want to thank you again for taking time just to listen to the podcast or view it on YouTube. It's our goal to spend 20 or 30 minutes each time we're together to help grow your culture to a point where your employees refuse to leave and your customers can't resist. This is Terry. We'll talk to you soon.